Welcome to the Crimeycade podcast. I am the back conservative cry fighter, Stephen Lucas, former Gamer of the Year, 91 Nintendo Campus Challenge, national champion. It's 2025. Yes. Holidays are over, although we still have Martin Luther King Day coming up. So, holidays, Christmas and New Year's right in the middle of the week is kind of the most inconvenient time for those holidays to appear, because if you want to go anywhere, you have to take the days off before or after the holiday, unless you're doing it locally or doing a one-day trip. But yeah, I didn't want to go to work today, and seems like I had so much to do, but only a mere one day to do it. So, but we're in the middle of 2025, and sheesh. I been a fun farewell. Well, not so fun farewell to 2024, and then we have 2025 starting off with bizarre things happening in the world already, but hopefully things get better as years go along, and there's a lot of gaming to come as start the new year. I want to win more championships, tournaments, belts, trophies, for competition. Obviously, I want to spend a lot more time gaming and score chasing and all that fun stuff, and attending gaming conventions. Speaking of gaming conventions, we got for this week, it's a convention organizers episode, as I have 3 convention organizers here on the podcast today. I put out a note on the National Video Game Convention Schedule Facebook, as I was looking for guests to talk about gaming in the near future. They allowed the post, and then I got deluged with people who are offering to come on the podcast. So I've looked in 3 of those people here today, and going to introduce them in order, starting off with Scott Clark, who has managed to complete a full collection of Nintendo Entertainment System cartridges, original releases, not hacks, not homebrews, but the original releases, and is also one of the hosts of the Gaming Outsider podcast, as well as a convention organizer of the Rock River Valley Video Game Expo. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself, man?
Well, I just looked at the forecast, and winter it's going to be finally here. Although Rockford got snow, but it's been an unseasonably warm December.
Hey, we can't complain too much. It's been pretty nice, but the future weather seems to be that we're going to have like the coldest winter since like 94. So I'm not looking forward to that. But, that's why we got the heat in the house and extra blankets and sweatshirts. So looking forward to that.
Coldest winter since 94. Well, it's gotten off to a slow start, I guess, if it's going to be super cold out. All right. Our next guest, introducing second, he founded the Como Retro Video Game Convention that's down in Columbia, Missouri, and I've been to this a few times. Welcome, Sumner Henry. How you doing tonight?
Good.
I'm glad you can make it. I know
Yeah, I know everyone's so busy right now, so yeah.
Well, we'll get to your story in a little bit. Oh, yeah, the holiday season. I haven't brought this up yet. I was going to do it, but since you were all here, I was just going to, and I didn't know how much time each of you had. I decided to just bring you all on straight away and talk about other stuff happening in the gaming world on the backside of the interview. Or you might want to cover it. I don't know. We'll see.
Hey there, Sumner. Nice to meet you. I'm Scott.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Scott. So you're from Rock River Valley. So
Yeah, our convention is called the Rock River Valley Video Game Convention,
okay,
but we call it
okay.
R2V2 for short. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
in Rockford, Illinois. Where are you about?
I'm in Columbia, Missouri, but I'm
Okay.
actually from Illinois as well. I'm
Oh,
from Southern Illinois. You know,
Taylorville,
Taylorville. Yeah,
okay.
Taylorville.
right
Yeah,
close to where I
yeah,
live.
yeah. Central Illinois. I don't know if you're from Chicago, you think it's Southern. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
I
I'm
call
about
my
as
area Central Illinois.
I'm about as
Southern
far.
Illinois is everything south of US 50.
yeah. You'll get some people from Chicago that'll say like otherwise, but
Well,
you
we
know,
call it
who cares?
downstate. We use the term
Yeah,
downstate Illinois.
yeah, that works too. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm about as
Ah.
far north as you can get in Illinois before hitting Wisconsin. So yeah,
yeah. I was gonna say,
Oh, you're on the
yeah,
border?
I mean about 15 minutes. Yeah, not even. So it's real close to the border.
All right. Our third guest, and this gentleman is not in the Midwest, he's further out. And I can only say that I've touched down in this city once in my lifetime, but that was on my way to Florida to win my 1991 Nintendo Campus Challenge Championship. He is the organizer, one of the organizers of the Southern Fried Gaming Expo down in Atlanta, Georgia. And I know several people from my neck of the woods have been making the trip down there, such as the Midway legends of Brian Cullen, Paul Niemeyer, Tim Keithrow, and Jeff Lee of Qbert fame. And this convention is, looking at videos, I kind of compare it to the size of the Midwest Gaming Classic. And I don't know how it's been running, but joining us tonight, Shannon Dewitt. How are you
Hello.
doing?
Greetings, everyone. You don't get to talk about South. I'm in the South now. Atlanta's the South. So,
Well, you
but
got to be fuming a little bit because Georgia lost the Sugar Bowl to Notre Dame.
I did see. We did it without our normal quarterback, but it is what it is.
Although the teams we thought that were going to advance in the tournament didn't quite go the way.
Yeah, I think the college football playoff have some rethinking to do as they look at how they structure it.
Although I'll say this, if you're expecting every game to be within two scores from beginning to end and finish in an overtime period, forget it.
Yeah.
There are blowouts, there are close games, and all things in between. Not every game, and not every people have an off night at the most inconvenient time. That has happened up to a few teams for whatever reason. So, anyway, let's get started. We'll go around the room. Shannon, tell me first, how did you get? What was your attraction to gaming in general, or what was the first? What was the hook? Because for me, it was Space Invaders.
Sure. So I grew up as a computer kid, right? From the TSR-80s through the world of, Atari into IBM. I've worked for IT companies forever and always had a love of gaming, whether that's board games or video games or arcades. And in Atlanta, 15 plus years ago, we started the first pinball league. And from that, we kind of spun up the idea of the Southeast needs a vintage or a retro computer convention of some, or retro video game convention of some kind. So in 2014, we started the Southern Fried Gaming Expo, and was well surprised with how our first turnout went. And we've grown exponentially every year. It's excited to see where we've come from and all the pieces and things we've added to the show, from pepper eating to wrestling to live music. Board gaming has become a huge piece of the show. So just watching that growth and that excitement over that time. And we're approaching 10,000 attendees. So to see that growth is exciting for us. And it all goes back to our love of gaming. All three of us are passionate about what we're putting out there for people to do. I think as anyone who runs a gaming convention is, if you don't love gaming, you really shouldn't be running a convention about it, right? I think all of us have that same thing in common. So
When did you start? What year?
2014.
2014. So you hit your 10-year anniversary.
This is our 12 this year, because we even did an online one the COVID year. So
year.
Yeah, we don't talk about that. But it definitely was a hard year for all the gaming conventions that were out there. In Georgia, we lost a lot of funding. Our hotels and the convention centers and all that, they kept a big chunk of the money, even though we couldn't have an event. And I know that shut down some shows, not just gaming, but other things that never recovered from that. So if it would have happened 2 years in a row, we wouldn't have recovered from it. So yeah, big hit.
All right. Yeah. Scott?
Oh boy, where do I start? My history with gaming started as early as I can remember. My dad loves to tell the story that when I was old enough to crawl, I was crawling up on the furniture and trying to push buttons on a stereo. So he loves to tell everybody that I've been wanting to push buttons before I could talk. I was also a child of the 80s. I definitely had Pac-Man fever. My entire bedroom, my parents surprised me, and I came home from wherever I was at, and they had painted my entire room in Pac-Man and got me Pac-Man bedspreads, and it was awesome. I got this great picture of me sitting on the bed from when I had to have been like 4 or 5 years old. And ever since then, video games have just been the thing that I love to do and have gravitated towards more than anything else. I love to do it. I love the concept of actually taking part of a story instead of just watching it like in a movie or reading a book. It's been so much fun, and it's also given me an opportunity to build some really close relationships. I've got friends that I've made close friends through gaming, especially with the advent of online gaming in the past 15, 20, however many years. Friends that I've met online, and then we wound up vacationing together in the long time. So gaming has been an awesome thing for me. As far as the convention, and again, I'm the host of the Rock River Valley Video Game Convention, or R2V2. I say I'm the host. It's me and my team. And the reason we got into that at all is kind of a funny story. My co-host, Chris, just called me up one day, and all he said was, "Hey, just a heads up, we're doing a video game convention in October," and then hung up the phone. And I just sat there like, what? I have no idea what's going on. I had to call him back, and he's just laughing his butt off at me. And so that's what started the whole thing. He had found a venue. He knew the guy that owns a shop that was going to let us use it as this convention. And that's what started. That was 2019 was the first time we did it. It was great. We actually had 3 voice actors for our first one. We had Sissy Jones, we had Courtney Taylor, and we had Melissa Hutchison. And it was great. People got to come meet these voice actor celebrities, get autographs, get pictures taken with them. And we're like, this is awesome. Can't wait to do it again. And if you carried the one, you know that the next year was 2020. We did not do what Shannon did. By the way, Shannon, nice to meet you. I'm Scott.
Nice to meet you.
We did not do the online deal. We just kind of took a break. It would have only been our second year, and we had nothing, no backup plan or anything. So we just took a hiatus, and we're not able to do it again until 2 years ago. We did our second, and then this past October, we did our third, and we've just grown and grown and grown. But the reason we did it to begin with, not just because Chris wanted to mess with me and give me a heart attack that we were going to do this, is I live in Rockford, Illinois. And if you know anything about my town, it gets a bad rap in terms of the worst place in the world, in the country to live, and there's so much crime and blah blah blah. And I love this town, and I wanted to be a part of something awesome that takes place in Rockford, and I wanted to shed a positive light on my city and provide something cool for people in the town to do. And that was part of it. And as you guys know, gamers don't often get a really good rap, at least not not when we were growing up. You know, if you were a gamer, you were kind of looked down on. That's subsided for the most part, but I've always wanted to shed a positive light on my favorite hobby. So R2V2 gave me the opportunity to do something awesome for my city, but also do something awesome for gaming in general. And it's just been a fantastic experience, and I love doing it.
I have an answer for that. If somebody's looking down on a gamer, I just call the individual a technology-challenged old fogey who longs for the days of the manual typewriter and rotary phone.
Possibly.
That will shut them up. I think it'll shut them up, or at least they will kind of get the idea that they're living in the dark ages and not with the times. But
yeah.
also, you made me feel better about my hometown of Springfield, Illinois, because I thought Springfield was the worst place in the state to live. But I've only lived in Rockford for 6 months, and I was only like, 3 or 4 years old during that time. But I don't know. Sumner, how about you? How did you? What was your hook into gaming? And you're the youngest member of this panel here.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of my experience will be way newer. Like I'm talking about, I grew up on Xbox 360. Like that's kind of the era I'm talking about, and that was my first console. We had a Wii, but it was kind of like a family unit kind of thing. So not everyone had their fair shot at it. So with the Xbox 360, that was kind of my first experience. And since when I was younger, I was very involved in sports and that kind of stuff. So sports games were kind of my introduction to video games in general. I would say after that, it came PS4, and then that's kind of when the era I discovered retro video games in general. It became more of I kind of looked at it like I wasn't enjoying some of the PS4 games, so I was just looking for something else to do. And I'm trying to think what store it is, but there was a store in Springfield I walked into, and I think that's where I bought my first NES at. And for a couple years, I got really into just Nintendo Entertainment System games of all games, and it was totally out of the ordinary. No one my age obviously knew what it was, or when it came over, it's like, what's this like cart? Like they didn't know. So I kind of got into that. Yeah,
that is interesting that they don't know the retro stuff, even though there's been re-releases recently.
Yeah. I mean, they might know it. Maybe their dad was into it or something else, but otherwise, it just doesn't really come across that much. I mean, you see it more on logos and stuff now these days than anything. So maybe not so much as would have been, I don't know, 2015, 2016 when I got into it. So yeah. I mean, and that's when I got into it, and then. When it came to the convention, this was after I moved over to Missouri around COVID. So I had no experience running a convention during COVID, but God bless y'all that did that. I'm sure that's hectic. But the one show that inspired me the most was Bloomington. They had a show. Well, they still do. It's now.
They do.
It used to be, yeah. It used to be like it used to be Bloomington Convention, but now it's just straight up Illinois Gaming Convention. And that's when I got inspiration. Yeah, GameCon. That's where I got my inspiration from. It's kind of like similar towns, Bloomington and Columbia, Missouri. Very similar towns with the college vibes. I thought, well, I mean, Columbia is a really good place to have something like that. We need it. We don't really have that many stores around the area. There was a need for something, and that's kind of where I came up with the idea. for the convention at least. So, yeah.
Excellent.
I know that was a lot.
I gotta keep track of my questions here because I don't want, because I'm already starting to. I'm doing the round robin. I gotta remember what has been asked, and because some of it may have been gotten a little ahead of, or something. Something's got a little ahead. Como is coming up on April 19th. That's a Sunday, right?
Saturday show.
Oh, a Saturday show this year.
Yep.
Okay, because I know in past years it was on a Sunday, and I would. Yeah, it is a Saturday.
We always been on Saturdays. Yeah.
I must have lost track
like
of time.
One day
or something.
type of show. Yeah.
Shannon, your convention is coming up in
June. Yeah, we normally are in July. We are in the second largest Marriott in Atlanta, and it's connected to the Cobb Galleria Convention Center. So we use both of those venues. But the baseball All-Star game fell on our weekend. And so they said you can either be 4th of July or you can move to June. And I said, June works for me. That would have put it in us. So we're in June this year. June sorry, I always get my dates wrong. When you run to 20th through 22nd. Yeah, in Atlanta, and we are right across from the Brave Stadium, the Atlanta Braves Stadium here in Atlanta, and share a lot of their stores and restaurants and whatnot. So it makes it convenient for people to get to. But we just had to move because of that, and no Braves game this year. So we always fight with, will there be parking and how will that all work? But this year, no overlap, which is always nice. So.
And I got the graphic loaded up.
Yeah.
Hey. Well, let me go backwards here because I had the Como up here too. This is the other one. Rock River Valley, the 2025 edition has not been scheduled yet. Is that correct?
No, it has. It's going to be on October 11th of 2025. We just have not put it up on any of the social media outlets yet because I'm just now starting to plan it with my artist who puts together all our banners and everything. So that's not up there yet. But yeah, we have a date picked. We've got a band booked. I don't know if I told you guys that, but we do live music as an after party. We get bands that come and play video game music at the end, which is awesome. It was so much fun last year. And I'm looking forward to doing that again this year. We got a band booked already.
Now you ran your convention right before the Pinball Expo.
Yes, we did, and we did not know that when we booked it originally. We the reason we picked that date is we actually received a proclamation from the city of Rockford. They announced the week of our convention, not this past year, but the year before. They called that week Rockford's annual retro video game week in our honor. So we got this fancy little plaque from the mayor. So we just kind of have to have that convention somewhere in that week because it's retro video game week. Why would you not do that? So we did not even realize it was butting up right next to the Pinball Expo, but it actually worked out really well because one of our musical guests, his name is Grant Henry. You might know him from the band Stemmage. He's behind Metroid Metal, but he is full-time doing music now for video games. And he was at the Pinball Expo because he was asked to do all the music and sound for the new James Cameron's Avatar pinball table. And so he was there kind of selling that. And it was the weekend before. So I got to see him the weekend of our convention. And then we got to go to the Pinball Expo and see him there. And it was really cool. I got to play that table too, which is really rad. I don't know if you guys are into pinball or not.
It was. I was there. How far are you, Scott, then from Chicago?
Oh, Chicago, I'm about like hour 15 northwest. So okay. That one was actually in Schaumburg, if I remember correctly.
Schaumburg, it was. This was the first year I got to go to that, and it was great. Had a good time.
It was Did you get to play any of those like homebrew tables over in the corner?
Quite a few. So,
oh my goodness,
Marco's Specialty, which sets up that, is one of our biggest partners at Southern Fried. So I knew their whole team, and they were running all that, and there was some really neat stuff back there.
That Borderlands table blew my mind a little bit.
It was great. It was great.
I've never seen anything like that before. The Sonic the Hedgehog table was a ton of fun to play. We actually talked to that guy, convinced him to bring that table to R2V2 this year too. So I'm a huge pinball fanatic. I love it so much.
I mean, Chicago, you're lucky. You know, all the pinball designers. I mean, so many of them live there. You know, when we get them to our show, we've got to get them from Chicago down. But that area, so many people just live. And I went to one of the historic panels there to hear just all the history of the folks that live there that've done voices and design and build. And it's a rich city for that. And it's really special to meet all the people that can be at one show like that.
Absolutely. Not to mention Midway, was here originally, so we got a lot of that stuff too. It's just it's really cool, and I'm hoping...
now you've got 3 or 4 companies building again in Chicago besides Stern. You know, there's Stern and 2 or 3 more now. So
American Pinball, Jersey Jack, I believe, opened a factory over there.
Yep.
I thought they were from New Jersey, but they moved, I guess.
Nope. Yeah, all through. There were 4. I think there were 4 factory tours while I was at. I think I went on one of them, but there were 4 different ones you could go on at the expo. That was really cool.
I did not get to do that. They did. I'm a school teacher by day, so I think they were doing those tours like on Thursday or Friday or something like that.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, they were earlier in the week. I made it to the Stern one. I wanted to see their new factory, but I didn't get to make it to the rest. It was really cool.
That's on my bucket list for one of these times. I'm glad.
Yeah, you need to do it. You need to do it.
Yeah.
I was on the last tour of the old factory, and then the tour of the new one, like in successive years. I haven't been up to tours for quite some time because I'm only up there for 3 days. I have to medicate a cat.
Oh no!
On a daily basis, and well, she's 17, so what am I going to do? We're not 18 now. Sooner or later, they're going to interrupt this podcast. I just know it. They haven't yet, so we'll see. Sumner, some of the past gaming conventions you've been to that were not Como?
Yeah. The first one I attended was, I believe the first one was Portland, and the big retro gaming expo out there. I mean, because at the time we really didn't have anything like that. I mean, I didn't know about Bloomington. I think that's like the first year they started up. So I guess that ad did not hit me for some reason. And we went all the way out there. We have family over there, so that was the first show I went to. I was kind of blew away by it, and by now it's grown like, I don't know. It used to be, I think attendance then was like 7,000 or something like that. So it's really grown since then.
7,000 for the plane ride and the tickets?
No. It's 7,000 attendance.
7,000 attendance. Okay.
So it was smaller back then, but even back then, that was the big show, and that didn't. It got me more into the hobby for sure. And then I'm trying to think. Well, Mo GameCon, of course.
Right.
That one that being so close by to me, and that's I met a lot of people through that way too, and that's where I got a lot of just boosting hobbies. But I didn't get the idea until Bloomington. So those 3 shows total are the ones I've been to before I start organizing. And now, I mean, when you start organizing, I talk to other organizers. Sometimes it's hard to get out to their shows.
Right.
So, I mean, I've been to a couple more since then, but I mean, that's the total amount of shows I've done. I'm mostly like and also the idea I forgot to mention is to start up the show is my dad was originally he used to do a show called the American Political Items Collectors Show, which used to be like a national show and stuff, and then someone else runs it now. But I helped a lot with that in 2016. So I was like, well, maybe like the idea that was always in the back of my head to have like a convention or something like that. So it was, so it was always was there. It's just, it didn't happen. It didn't really happen until I was in the right spot, obviously. So, yeah.
Have you ever? Are you aware of this one? Let me show this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been to that one too. Yeah, Midwest. Yeah, that's
I'm
a
going
big one now too.
Yeah, I'm going back this year. I haven't been since it was in a the vendors were in a tent, and
Yeah.
Oh wow, wow.
You remember that?
yeah,
I've been there 20 years straight,
Yeah,
including
so
twice in one calendar year.
yeah.
dude. There's
I'm
like,
looking forward to see it.
yeah, there's like entire hallways dedicated just for cosplay, just for like different sections. Like it's 3 stories now. Let's just put
Yes.
it that way. Yeah, yeah. It's really wow. I think they said 30,000 people attend last year.
It's a ton of
It
fun to
was,
go to. For the pinball room
yeah,
alone, just the fact that there's that many tables and you can just go play to your heart's content. I mean, obviously we got the Pinball Expo here in Schaumburg, like we just talked about, but they've got that, and they've got the video game museum with all playable consoles, and they've always got something going on the stage. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Harp Twins, but they are like
Yeah.
fantastic to
yeah.
watch. I was there a couple years ago, and I just saw Ernie Hudson walk past, and I was like, "What?"
Oh, he was. I
Yeah.
don't wonder what year that was. I don't know. I know there's been some celebrities that have been booked for the Miss NGC. Gosh, now I'm getting tongue tied. That's bad. Yeah, and they had the Mortal Kombat actors there on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's
Bill
wild talking to
Mitchell.
those guys because like one of them is like a legit doctor, and he just comes out and does like these conventions just because he enjoys it. Like it's just kind of insane to me.
The Basina brothers, and then John Parrish is there a lot. Leah Montenegro pops in every now and then.
That was where I met John St. John and convinced him to actually come to our convention and sign autographs and stuff like that. That was a trip to see him in person. He's a super nice guy.
Although last year, gosh, so I've attended Midwest Gaming for 20 years. Last year, I just felt I had the blues when it was over because every year is the fastest 48 hours of the year. I did not feel I did everything I wanted to do. I was doing more tournaments than I did in previous years. And then I just like, well, I didn't go to Como the previous year, so I went to Como this last time.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It
It's
kinda
having
helps.
wild jumps. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say if you attended our first year and you go just skip another year, it's crazy how much has changed since then. And yeah, you'll get that jump. And I think that's what I'm thinking about going to Portland again. So I think that's what's going to happen to me when I go out there is just like total. I mean, because it's now in 30,000s, like Midwest Gaming Classic. So it's just be total chaos over there, I imagine.
Yeah,
I mean, compared to the later years.
I love going to other shows, and y'all probably have the same problem because at my show, I mean, we have 400 arcade and pinball machines, and I get one game in maybe. I don't get to play, right?
Same here.
Yeah.
I bought a machine. I bought a Mandalorian pin a couple of years ago, and I
Oh,
literally
I'm jealous.
I got 2 balls in, and my walkie was going off, and I was like, well, I guess I'll get it when it gets home. So it'd been the first pin I'd bought in a long time. I didn't even get to play it. So,
you bought a pinball and you didn't get to play it.
well, I didn't get to play it until it came home to me.
Oh, okay.
So, when we work with Marco, they do deals where, you can get it cheaper if you take the show floor, and so they get to be able to show machines off. Stern works with them to do that kind of thing. And the buyers get to take it home, only slightly used from the weekend. Sounds like a win-win, no shipping, no. So that had been a machine I had in my eyes for a long time. And I don't
Shannon,
have space for very many. So
I got to ask you, Shannon, are you married?
Widowed. So
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
That is one thing I would love to figure out how to convince my wife to let me do. Because
both the other show organizers, they have probably 7 or 8 pins each. I have 2. I've had many over the years, just swapped them in and out. But and their wives, they keep it in one space. Now, if they were to say it's moving to the living room, that would probably end it. But they have a space for it, and that
Yeah.
was.
I mean, I was gonna say, how are you gonna get the space for some of like all of that too? I mean, that's crazy.
You buy a house with a basement.
Yeah.
I did something different. I had a new garage built with a room in the back, and I put all the arcade games back there because they were in the basement. Well, if I wanted anything else, they needed to come out of the basement and get on a ground level floor because I'm older and I can't lug these things up and down stairs. It's dangerous.
Sure.
I'm not muscular. It was pretty hairy trying to get them out of the basement, and if I lost control of one of those machines, I was done for on the stairs.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I'd get crushed.
You got to get that. Have you ever seen the Escalera, the machine that takes pinball machines up and down stairs?
Is that the thing they were showing off at the Pinball Expo? Because
Yes.
I almost bought one, and I don't even own an arcade cabinet.
Yes.
It was just so freaking cool.
So they bring you to, and they bring a set of steps, and they literally will show you at the shows what they do, and your jaw drops. You know.
Yeah.
Wow.
It would have been fine if I could rent one for a day.
Right. Home Depot doesn't have that for rent. Sorry.
No way am I buying one. I just wanted to rent. I'd be better off just renting it for a day because then that was the only time I needed it.
Right.
But they got out, so now if I could just get a pinball without having to shell out 5 digits.
Yeah. They took the biggest swing upwards in prices over the last 8 years. It's crazy. I will say this year those prices have kind of tampered and dropped a little bit. Not back to where they were 8 years ago by any means, but at least I've seen some dips in some of the machines over the last couple of years, at least over the last year. So might get a little more affordable as people, you know. But I think during COVID, people were buying machines. They were at home and they were bored, and that caused the prices to really jack even more. So.
Sumner wanted to say something. I know he did.
Oh no. I'm just agreeing with all the prices. I mean, you had like general video games go up just because people were like, "Oh, well, I want to play Super Mario 64 again, like without emulation."
Well, that and the stimulus checks, people were just like, "Oh, disposable money."
Yeah,
exactly.
Free money. Yeah.
You're right. It's across everything. People were buying the retro systems they grew up on. People were buying the arcade machines. You know, anything. You know, I used to find on Facebook Marketplace a cab of something arcade for $200-300 that was still playable. You don't find that anymore. I mean, unless it's a broken, unplayable machine. You know. So.
I got to tell you, I passed up on an opportunity this past summer because, again, my wife would not let me have anything arcade related. But my favorite arcade game of all time is Star Wars Trilogy Arcade. Not the vector graphics one, but the one that's like all 3 of the games, and it's just a turret shooter. But I love that game. And my co-host buys cabinets for himself, and we use those at our convention. But we were picking up some cabinets from a private owner, and wouldn't you know it, they had Star Wars Arcade sitting there, but he said that the monitor was busted. So if I bought it from him, I would have had to, and apparently I don't know much about arcade cabinets, but apparently those are a pain in the butt to fix. Like, just even repair people just won't touch them. So even if I did buy it, who knew how much it was going to cost to replace it? But it was one of the sit down ones. You know what I'm talking about? Where you actually sit down in, and it's got the big screen, the projector screen. And he even offered at one point to give us that one and another gun. I think it was Gunblade. Both of them for $500.
Oh my gosh!
And it was all I could do. I'm like, I can't do it. I don't have anywhere to put it. So my buddy, one of my co-hosts, was like, "Okay, we'll take it. We're gonna store it in his garage, whatever." And by the time they got over there, he had sold it to somebody else. So man.
No.
My problem is transporting them. I don't have a truck.
Oh,
okay.
Chris has a truck. We're good there.
I have a Prius, and then and the car that I won way back in 1991, the Geostorm. I still have the trophy car, believe it or not.
I mean, if it's worth it, I mean, go rent a U-Haul at that point, especially
right.
you got multiple arcade machines going on. I mean, it might be worth it at that point.
A U-Haul truck, yes, or one from Menards. They also rent the trucks.
And pinball machines will fit in SUVs. Most SUVs. So
yeah, that is my other option. Ask my stepfather and borrow his van. Although it's got that big giant ham radio antenna attached to it, so I've driven it before. It's not bad. All right. You already told us about what got you wanting to do these or set up these conventions, or what inspired you. We'll go around the room. How did you plan your first one? We'll start with Shannon.
So our first year, like I said, we didn't have anything like that in the area, but we were all attendees of various and sundry other cons, and definitely had a picture in our mind what we wanted, and decided to do a Kickstarter. So Kickstarter was early in its life, and we had a very successful Kickstarter with shirts and tokens and different paraphernalia for people who supported the show. It's still out there. You can go watch some of our corny videos where we promoted the event and did silly things. But it was what really set the groundwork. I think we raised like $6,000 from it. But for our first year show, that was wonderful for us, and it gave us a strong footing to get to where we needed to be. And in 2 years, we quickly outgrew that hotel and moved to what you're seeing now, which is the convention center. That's one hall of the 2 halls in the convention center, and the entire hotel. So the growth from that smaller hotel to now, is amazing. But it's kind of crazy that it all started with a Kickstarter. So yeah, we're really happy of how it got its groundwork, and we started really as an arcade pinball show. So we all had friends that were in that hobby, and even though we had some console stuff, that were in that hobby and fell in love with our idea of having our own arcade pinball show. And of course, I'm sure we'll talk later, it's quickly grown to much more than that. So,
and I'm looking at these here, and it's like you don't see the glob, especially in the cabaret, and this other one, Eek, which I was aware of its existence, but I'm amazed.
Yeah, every year we get some really great machines that you don't get to see a lot of, which is always exciting. Of course, I don't get to play those either, but at least I can see them.
Well, you may have to come up to Galloping Ghost Arcade up in Chicago, because they have several hundred games that you don't see, and some of them are one-of-ones, and some are prototypes.
They got the Primal Rage 2 cabinet up there at Galloping Ghost.
We almost made it while we were up there this past time, but just ran out of time. So it is on my list for next time I'm up in that area.
If you're in the area, man, hit me up, man. I'd love to meet you down there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'd love it.
If you ever go to the Galloping Ghost Arcade, you need 2 full days there to get the full experience.
Yeah, he's expanded so much. He's got multiple buildings now, like one dedicated just for pinball, and then he just keeps growing and growing. It's really overwhelming going into Galloping Ghost, because you don't know where to start, and it's just you can't. Like yes. I actually wound up spending most of my time not even playing, just wandering around and soaking it in, because it's just so beautiful. It's just awesome.
I definitely want to check it out. I've heard nothing but good things from it. So,
is that the one in Chicago? Because I think I've seen social media.
Yeah, just outside of Chicago.
I think he's second only to the guy in Dallas. I say that's got one bigger.
Oh,
or somewhere in Texas.
If there's an arcade bigger than Galloping Ghost, I would like to know.
Yeah.
Right now, Galloping Ghost stands at about 1,020 different games, and that counts multiple games in the same cabinet, but they're all running original hardware. There's no quote-unquote multi-cades unless it was released as a multi, like Namco Museum.
Right.
And obviously the Neo Geos, about all of them are 6 slotters. But he's out of room, and he's had to double up. He's had to put 2 boards in the same cabinet and have a switch, so you can switch between the 2 games, but they're all running their individual boards. And now they need to build 2 more floors to that building. When is it going to happen? Don't know.
That's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. It is getting a little worrisome because, like, there's a bunch of games in the front entrance, then that walkway to come in. It's like, it wasn't really meant for arcade games to be put. But now he's like, he doesn't want to take anything off the floor because he's like, he just opened Canton expansion and brought all the games that were made almost every game available again, but doesn't want to go back to taking games off the floor for several months until they open a new expansion. Because right now they can't, unless they move, which I don't think he's moving.
Hey, Sumner, you said you went to the Portland show. While you were there, did you happen to go to the arcade called Ground Control?
Ground Control. I think that was part of it. Yeah. I think at the time it was like its own separate room, or I'm trying to think what it was called, but I'm pretty sure I attended that. Yeah.
Yeah, Ground Control is like a barcade that's in downtown Portland that every time I go there, I make sure to stop by there. But that and, what's the other one? Not Quartermaster, but Next Level. Next Level is hands down the cleanest, most updated arcade I've ever been to.
Yeah.
It is, I mean, and if you like pinball, that is the place to go. My buddy Mike lives in Portland, and I go visit him every other year, and we do what we call a pinball Grand Prix, where we make a spreadsheet and we keep track of our scores, and we do skins and we do total points, and it's just we play pinball. I think the first time we did it, it was 11 hours straight. We took like a half-hour break for lunch, but nothing but pinball for 11 hours. It is so much fun, and I still only played like a third of the pinball tables after that. Like it's just absolutely insane. You need to go to Next Level, and it is just so well put together and well maintained. It's great.
Now, Sumner, go ahead.
Oh no, I had a question for Shannon actually. So are most of your arcade machines, are they volunteer based? So like where they would donate it and
That's a great question. Yeah. So we get this question a lot from other shows. So it's twofold. We probably have the majority of our machines are donated. So all of our attendees can submit a game to bring, and that gets them free admission. And the perks go up from there. The one thing that we don't do is we don't do transport on people's machines. It's was a little too high risk for us to want to take that on, although I know some shows do that. I just don't feel comfortable with some people's $5,000 pinball machine and a volunteer trying to help move it. But we do offer perks, including financial support for some people, depending on how many games they bring to the show. And then as far as new machines, we probably have 40 or 50 new machines that'll show up at the show. A lot of those are pre-sold. Some of them aren't, and they're hoping to sell at the show. And of course, vendors themselves bring some machines too. So it's a big mass of, in the arcade pinball side. The console world's a little different, but for the arcade pinball side, yes, you can volunteer to bring, and people love it. We run contests for best restoration, best mod, so we give out 7 or 8 trophies, and then we do a big drawing at the end of the weekend for all the people who bring stuff to win everything from machines to everything, just the big pile of giveaways at the end. People love that as well. So we're lucky to have a community that enjoys doing that, and we've been very fortunate over the years that people continue to support. It's a lot. I mean, you just said yours is in your basement. We hear this story all the time. I actually had someone say, I don't want to ever bring them out, but your show makes me do it, and I love it.
That's great.
And so that's always a good thing to hear. I hope people continue to support the community. Some people are very proud of the work they've put into the restorations on the machine, and they just want to show them off. And that's the one time they get that chance to. So, and then we do rent in, some of the Asian cabs and some of the things that people typically don't have in their basement, just to round out and have some variety. And so that's nice as well.
It's kind of crazy, like when you set that up, because we did arcade cabinets at R2V2 as well. We rented them though. Obviously, my co-host owns a few of his own that he put up there, but most of them were rented. And it's crazy which ones, watching the ones that people gravitate towards. You wouldn't think they would. I mean, I know Crazy Taxi was popular, but I think that machine was never without a person on it the entire 10, 12 hours we were on there. It was just like San Francisco Rush. Like, I mean, that is an old racing game, but people were playing it the entire time. We had a hook pinball table. It was the only pinball table we had, and everybody was playing it. It's just, they're not going for the ones that I was like assuming they would, and it's just you never know what's going to happen.
What didn't get play?
What's that?
What curious? What didn't get any play? What didn't get play?
I mean, stuff like Donkey Kong. Like that didn't get a whole lot of play. I mean, because our audience
common,
is
right?
a lot of it's pretty common, I guess.
So it's Crazy Taxi, or at least I thought.
Well, but you got to remember, like, our audience is not so much. I mean, there's collectors there, but being a teacher, I was able to market to teenagers and elementary age students a lot easier than I was to adults and collectors. I mean, I'm in the collectors market, but I had a natural built-in community. So we had lots and lots of kids there that probably have never even seen a Crazy Taxi cabinet. You know what I mean? There's not a whole lot of arcade cabinets with steering wheels, except for, I mean, maybe at Walmart they've got like a Hydro Thunder on a stand-up, which doesn't even make sense to me. Why would you want to do that? But it's just kind of a novelty for the younger generation that didn't grow up with this stuff like we did, which is awesome to see. We got this one, I want to say it's Beachhead or something. It's I can't remember if it's called Beachhead. I think it's called something else.
Beachhead 2000.
It's got a massive helmet you put down on you with this. That is not fun to put together, by the way. Holy cow.
Galloping Ghost does have that one, but it's not the VR version.
It is insane to move, because I don't know if you guys know this, but that thing runs on an actual PC. Like you take it apart and there's an actual tower, like a 1990s computer running that thing. It's nuts.
Sumner, I'll say one other thing. To make our folks who supply the games feel better, we hand coded this whole web interface where people submit their games. But the great part about that is when they check in at the show, those are updated with their location, and we have techs that are volunteers that are very comfortable with repair, ball sticks on machine, that kind of thing. And every machine has a tag on it, whether it's for sale or if it's not. But those same tags have a QR, so anybody can point at the QR and say, this game, as soon as they point at it, knows the game name, has a stuck ball or needs quarters put in it or whatever. And all of our techs that are on call at that moment get that notification. And if they can't fix it, we keep the keys. If they can't fix it, they escalate and send a text message to the owner. So, and the owners are so passionate, they're usually there within minutes ready to fix their machine.
Right.
So one of the problems you can have, I went to MagFest one year and I loved MagFest. It was really cool. But I went out to the arcade. They had an all-night arcade, and they were like a whole row, and every other machine was down. And so that's the one thing you don't want to see when you're at a convention, is you don't want machines to be down. And so I've heard they've gotten a lot better about that. But that was something for us that opened our eyes and said, we have to really make sure the owners are comfortable that things are running, and that the people who are playing doesn't feel like half the machines aren't working. We've all been to that arcade where this joystick won't go left and that flipper's not working, and no one has any fun, right? And so we try to prevent that.
I think something similar is going on at Midwest Gaming Classic. Is they have a similar setup, probably. Of course, they've been doing it for 20 years. So
right.
Yeah. I mean, because I know it's more of a problem. Like, say you're in you're Atlanta, so you have a really big base. I imagine for just people who are like, oh yeah, I have a pac-man machine up in my attic. Like, I imagine there is a lot bigger resource for that. I know for our show, because we are like kind of in between two really big cities, we did have some resources from that, but a lot of times we had to buy them. So that's interesting. It's in, because I know like a lot of people treat their arcade machines, it's like family for them, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, it's really they're very hesitant at times to bring out machines. So
Well, you might
maybe
also could talk to if there's any local arcades in those nearby cities, offer to
yeah,
let them bring in 2 or 3 machines and promote their business, and that might,
yeah,
win for both of y'all.
And I know Columbia, Missouri has a few arcades. Last time I was down there, Facebook ad showed up, sponsored ad for Witches and Wizards,
yeah,
and I toured that place. I spent a few hours in there, and there's that. They're only open on weekends, and they're cashless too. And they're in
yeah,
a district called the Arcade District, ironically.
yeah. It's a big brand out there. Basically, what they did is they took this very industrial area part of town and they turned all those buildings to those new like hip kind of areas because it's right next to Columbia College. So that's just a walk over, and you have restaurants, but it's all centered around this arcade called Witches and Wizards. And yeah, it's a really cool place. Um, they have tons of machines and stuff, and yeah, it's great. It's great for our town. Yeah.
I also heard that another pinball place opened up in that same district. I don't remember what the name of it was, but I saw that. I don't know if you saw it.
I wouldn't know.
You would not
I
know.
don't think I've
Okay.
seen it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll look into that. I'll figure out who. Because if I come to Como this year, I'm going to be looking for that place.
Yeah,
Probably another visit to Wizard and Witches, or got it backwards.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, oftentimes they have like some events going on around the time the convention's going on, so I'm sure they'll like do some kind of promotion about it or something like that. Uh, I wonder. I know there's other organizers here. I wonder if you guys have enough following where like you just have other like events going on at the same time. So like, I'm sure Atlanta, you would probably have some bar arcade events going on and they just naturally spawn in just because of your event. And Rockford, maybe. I mean, I'm thinking about more Chicago
Yeah, yeah.
area at that point. Yeah,
Rockford's a
I
little
mean,
bit tougher sell. This is something that, we're doing something cool for the community they've never seen before. They've literally never had
right.
a video game convention in Rockford. So getting the word out, number one, is difficult. We're doing
Hmm.
the best we can, but we had 305 paid entries last year. So like we are not to the 7,000 or whatever that,
Yeah, I know.
we are working our way slowly. You know what I'm saying? But we've got the backing of the city and they're behind us. So, but yeah, it's just it's a
It's
different
Well, I
world.
might as well throw this up here. This is 2023. I
Yeah.
didn't.
So this is at the Lyron Club. What you're looking at is it's a singing society in Rockford, Illinois, in Midtown. And the room you're looking at was a disaster when we got there. We actually renovated the entire thing. It is, you see that stage in the background with the archway. We painted that. I was up on scaffolding painting that. We painted all the walls. We painted the balcony. We scrubbed the floors. We did some woodwork. We put about $4,000 of our own money into making this place look better. We are now at we're at a place called Cliff Breakers. It's a resort. They've got a convention center right there on the river, and we're much happier there. It's a very nice place. So, but this was,
You
yeah.
know what? I think they tricked you into sinking all the money on renovating the building so they wouldn't have to pay it.
I'm gonna plead the fifth on that one, man.
Well, it would smell that way to me anyway.
This
That you'd have to go and you'd have to do it during setup day.
yeah, and we still had to pay for it too. So that was interesting. This is a really cool convention though, because I told you we got John St. John at this one. He's the voice of Duke Nukem, and a listener of our show found out that he was going to be there and contacted him and asked him if he would marry them at the convention. He is an ordained minister. So there was literally a wedding at our convention.
Oh
and
my God.
they got married by the Duke, which was pretty awesome to see.
Wow.
That's a great. You got to take that story and run with it.
Yeah, we
that's
actually
great
had
one right there.
we had the news showed up and they took video and all that, so we got a little shot on the news. I got to be that nerd that was getting interviewed by the news, and I was on TV that night, and it was pretty cool. So
I did.
Wow.
There was footage out there of the convention last year, although most of it was like during setup day. So I didn't load that one up because I wanted to see a crowd in the building, and people were still setting up. So
that vendor you're looking at right now, his name is Ben. He is an
Mhm.
awesome dude. I don't know if you guys know Ben Bizzle, but
Yeah.
he's a great vendor. He's been with us for all 3 years that we've been doing this. I'm sorry, not 3. He's been the last 2. Very, very cool guy, and he's got quite a collection. If there's something you're looking for, more than likely he's got access to it.
Yeah, you should check down. He opened up his store down in St. Louis. So if you ever get the time, run by there. That's a great little hidden gem there in St. Louis.
And just a cool guy, just a very.
What's
cool
his shop?
Yeah.
Is it Retro Game Rescue?
No. Those are different folks, but that's a good store as well. It's
Filthy Games Room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boy, that could have been timed any better. Look at
that.
Yeah,
well, there's a good promo. Yeah.
Product placement. You're welcome, Ben.
I told you that I was going to be joined by the individual who was going to crash my stream, and he did crash it. This idiot has joined me now. Cody, who wants to think of himself as the actual star of the show. I lost my screen here because I pulled away. There we go. I'm gonna throw this back up there. Yeah, this gentleman here is just wheeling and dealing. I didn't say who it was. This
That's
footage
Scott
is from
Ashcraft you're looking at right there. He's a buddy of ours. He's a YouTuber as well.
Geeks Unplugged.
He's a lot of fun. We actually did not an after party, but it was a celebration event for RTV2. Anybody that helped work the convention, I had him over and grilled burgers, and we watched a movie in the garage. And he showed up, and he's a lot of fun to hang out with.
Yep, and that's his co-host. So they're running through this. I haven't thrown up the Como convention because I have that loaded up on here too. Well, I gotta pause this. There we go. Swap. Boom. Percent X stage. There we go.
Yeah.
Or StreamYard makes it so much easier. That's Stephen Wright. He was there at the convention. So this footage was from him. Since that was one of the full walkthrough videos of Como. Yeah, I was there. They had arcade games. They had the big names there.
Yeah. That was really the first time we'd done that too, the arcade stuff. So I mean, that's why I asked Shannon you about that, because that's still kind of new world to me, is all that type stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is first year. Well, this is our. I'm trying to think. Would have been.
This is year number 5,
4.
or would be. I did the first one. I skipped the second. I did the last one. Okay, year 4.
Yeah, year 4, I think. Yeah, because we had our 2022 show, but it was a great little show that happened there. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to go out of that place now. We got a new venue, so we'll be in a bigger spot.
You did outgrow it relatively quickly.
Yeah, like 4 years. Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna kind of be like the Illinois Game Con. It's a very similar space, kind of like a state fair kind of building. I don't know if you guys been in one of those before, but it's a lot more space. I think we double our square footage. Like it's a lot for us. So yeah, I mean, so number 5 will be a big one for sure. Um, and yeah, it's still a young history though. Still a young show. I know Scott's at 3 now, and
3,
then
yep.
yeah. So we're still trying to work things out here with all of our shows right now. So it's
Well, we'll have to compare notes, man. We'll have to
yeah, I was gonna
each other on
say
Facebook and stuff, and I'd love to
yeah.
swap vendors with you guys, and because we're always looking to fill in those spaces. And one of the things that we have decided we want to do this year is, we had vendors there, obviously, and that's a big part of any gaming convention. But especially with our audience being a lot of school age kids, because it's a community event. To me, more than a collector's event, is we want to have things that people can do besides go buy stuff, because it's like you charge people to walk in the door, and you're basically asking them for money so they have the right to spend more money. And we want to incentivize that somehow with more things that they can do that don't cost them anything. So I would love to kind of compare notes with you guys and see what other things we can do. I mean, we had video game tournaments last time. We had these guys come in that ran like Smash Brothers tournaments and Tekken 8 and Street Fighter 6 and all that. And people enjoyed that. There was kids that were down there for the entire day. That's all they did. They never even looked at the vendor tables. You know what I mean? There's things that we want to do like that, where you've just got stuff to do, games to play, and the arcade cabinets were a big part of that. But we want to enhance that. Obviously, the vendors are there, but we want to do more things that don't make people pay more money.
Yeah. I think that's the most valuable thing with shows right now, is just having that extra like thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like you can roam around a vendor hall probably given 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 if it's a really big space. But like afterwards, you gotta have those arcade machines, those tournaments. It's very valuable. It's very valuable. Reason why people stay.
Exactly.
Midwest Gaming Classic, their vendor hall is so daggin' big, you're practically making your first pass, and it's taking hours.
Yeah.
We had I was going to say, we had an interesting thing occur in like year 5 or 6. We'd heard our hall stays open till midnight on Friday and Saturday, and the vendors were in the hall with the arcades and the pinballs and whatnot. And we'd heard that was hard on some of them, so we split them off to an area we could close down earlier. And boy, I never heard it after that show. Those vendors said, "Nope, put us right back where we used to be. We want the games all around us. We'll cover our stuff if we want to leave, but we need to be part of it." And that's
awesome.
a hard sell. That's a hard sell to new vendors, right? But if people are gaming at 11 o'clock at night, they're buying too. And so we force people. It's kind of like a Disney World. We force people right down the vendor aisles to get to the new pinball machines and right past these folks, because vendors are a heart of our show too. I mean, we have 140 vendors at our event, so we want to make sure that they're seen, but they only take up a fraction of the space compared to the arcade pinball consoles and all the other events we have. So, but you're right. The key is finding. We do a lot of panels. We have a lot of entertainment. Whether that's wrestling on both nights, or I've mentioned the pepper eating or live music, and those draw people too. So we want to make sure that we've got stuff that people feel like when they pay to come in, that they're getting their money worth of it. It's not just vendors, right? I don't want it to be just vendors.
Yeah, we found that having the voice actors there was a huge draw. The last year we didn't have any voice actors. We opted for doing the after party route instead, which, I'm a huge fan of music in general, but you throw video games into the mix and it's even better. But we had people being like, "Man, I really wish you had somebody famous there for us to meet, because that was really awesome." You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we're rethinking that as well. I mean, selfishly, I still want to do the music thing, and maybe we'll do both. I don't know, but you're right. Having that other thing you can do and go meet somebody that you're never going to have another opportunity to meet them in person again. People came just to see Melissa Hutchison. I don't know if you know who that by name, but she was the voice of Clementine in the Walking Dead games. Courtney Taylor was Jax in Max Effect. Sissy Jones, you know, she's in Walking Dead as well, but she was in Firewatch. She was, you know, she won a BAFTA for that. And she's done countless other voices. She's on a show on Disney called The Owl House. And people just love to meet somebody that they can't do that. And it's especially cool when we do it in a city like Rockford, where people don't have that opportunity because they're not going to go to Chicago. You know what I mean? And it's right in their back door, and it's awesome.
We didn't start into the voice actor and the famous folks until, well, I mean, we had a few early on, but we've got more into that recently. You know, our famous folks was game designers for a long time. You know, whether they were, you know, we had Billy Mitchell, one of the first shows he ever did before all the craziness happened with Billy. We had, say what you want to about is he's one of the nicest individuals you'll ever meet, you know, and treated his fans like gold. What you're looking at here is kind of the same idea. You know, we put the vendors around the open gaming, so they're kind of forced to see all these vendors rather than shoving them into a room and locking the door. And they loved it too, you know. And so this is just all board gaming vendors, but you kind of get the idea that we want the vendors to feel part of the event. And I think that for us, it works. That doesn't work for every show, but for us, it definitely works, you know.
And there's some Artist Alley in here too, I believe.
And back to the voices, you're exactly right. I think it was 2 years ago we had Princess Peach and Bowser and one of the other princesses, and people just ate it up. You know there's actually a picture of Princess Peach. You saw her giant inflatable Mario that went viral with her holding his hand, and I absolutely loved it. I thought that was just the greatest photo ever. So,
although we had, Princess Peach and Donkey Kong and several other Smash Brother characters wrestle at Illinois Game Con. This last event, well, wrestlers were cosplaying, but they were wrestling as the characters.
So I just interrupt because of this video right here. This has been one of the most exciting additions we've added to the show. Atlanta had a show called the Vintage Computer Festival that took place in the old CompUSA. And they had issues getting that space to continue the way they wanted it to. And we embraced it and said, hey, come have it at our show. We'll give you the space. You can still do the things you want to do. And they did. And people just, I mean, I'm fascinated with it because I grew up on some of these machines. But people just absolutely love it. And I think it's really cool. I mean, they'll have mainframe machines still up and running, you know, plugged in. And it's a hoot to see some of the things that actually come to the Vintage Computer Festival every year. So
I'll say this: the couple of days before Midwest Gaming Classic, the biggest hacker convention in the Midwest, SchifferCon, happens in the same venue. So there's a little bit of overlap.
Yeah, certainly. I bet there's some overlap. So
I don't know. I was considering attending some of that, although my days of coding are long, long behind me. I couldn't code if I even wanted to because of how things have evolved. I don't know how they do it, but...
Hey, guys, I don't know if it's just me, but Shannon is coming through really choppy for me.
I did notice that, too.
I'm sorry to interrupt, and I know this is not, protocol for a podcast, but I want to make sure he was heard.
I am hearing him, even though there's a little bit.
He was a little bit. He was clear on my end. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah.
So far, there's still a little bit of a. It's not like continuous. It's just like when you hit the peaks. Sometimes it's almost like it's
interesting.
Like you need to turn the gain down a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, Shannon. So I didn't ask this. Well, where's some of the big arcades in the Atlanta area? Because I don't know of it. I don't know what they are.
Atlanta has a couple of arcades. Nothing massive like what y'all referred to. The closest massive arcade, I think, is in Nashville now. There's a huge place up in Nashville with a lot of pinballs and arcades.
The Game Terminal, I believe.
I believe that's what it's called. Atlanta does have some. We have some local places that are fun to go to and have some great folks at, but we don't have one of those massive kind of arcades that you think about when you talk about Galloping Ghost and that kind of stuff. So,
can I give a shout out to another arcade in my area?
Yep.
I'm obviously in Rockford, which is not far from the Chicago suburbs, but there's a suburb called West Dundee, and there
Yeah.
is a arcade there called the Underground Retrocade,
Yep.
and it's owned by a guy named Scott Lambert. He is a really cool guy, and I got to say, he has the best maintained arcade I've ever seen in the area. He takes such good care of his machines. He does not let anybody bring food or drink anywhere near the machines. He's really good about it, and I feel like more modern day arcades kind of. This sounds weird to say, but they're too bright. You know what I mean? He does a really good job of giving it that 80s 90s feel where it's dark and it's still, I love it. And I mean that in a good way. It's not like it's dark and dank, but it's just like the perfect amount of lighting
No.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
That lighting's key. Our convention center, we tell them on move in. Normal events move in and it's half lighting, and then when the event happens, it's full lighting. And we tell them we want it the opposite. We
Yeah,
want full
exactly.
light on move in, and then half
Yeah.
light when we're running the show. And they're like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "I'm absolutely sure."
Yeah.
Because all that glass
Yeah.
and the pinball, it's just glare. So absolutely, yeah, that makes it.
Yeah, the glare. Yeah, when I'm having to deal with glare, it's usually from a marquee in another row. Yeah, you don't want the lights shining right on the screen, and it's like, well, now I need somebody to unscrew the light bulb temporarily so I can see what's going on when I'm making a run for a score, a house high.
Mhm.
Now I'm gonna have to start bringing a towel to cover the marquee from behind me to chase certain scores, because I ended up having to cover up a marquee because one of those shoot 'em up games, and there's all these bullets coming at you, and you can't see them if you got glare in your way. Well, here's my next question. So R2V2 and Como's relatively new, but Southern Fried is the veteran of the group at 10 years. When you're managing growth year over year, how do you manage growth, and what it's like? Do you ever get a feeling that you bit off more than you could chew, and then it's
Every damn day.
time to still scale back a bit, or you just go full throttle and just grow it as big as you can get?
I don't know how to do anything but go full throttle. If you ask my friends, I don't know how to stop. So I am the way I've kind of measured myself is I gave you guys the number of attendees we had, which wasn't major impressive, but as long as we break even, I'm happy. We're all working for free. Nobody's getting paid in my team. I'm not getting paid on my a dime. We just want to at least break even, because anything we make above and beyond that just goes directly into next year. So as long as I am not losing money, I'm still going to keep doing it. You know what I mean? So I don't know how else to measure success. I mean, if we get big enough to where I can be like something to the size of what Shannon's doing, and I'm doing it, more than just for a hobby or something fun to do, I may start looking at that. But for now, as long as my community's having fun, as long as it's getting more eyes and ears on my podcast, and as long as we are not losing money, I'm happy.
Shannon, I was gonna go to you first, but oh well.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
It's
mean to
okay.
cut you off there, Shannon.
No, I think that's great.
I thought he said R2V2. So
No, so I remember, I think Scott and Sumner, I think all you do is grow, right? At least as far as you can. When we started early, we signed contracts with hotels because we were in hotels, and you have to have so many room nights, and if you don't make the room nights, you're paying chunks of money. And so I remember getting weekly reports on how many rooms we sell, and crossing my fingers that we were going to make our numbers. And for us, we're in a different world now where our hotel with 480 rooms sell out in one day.
right.
And so I don't worry about that anymore. but I still have to worry about all the things that go into the show, and it's a second job. I think, Scott, I know it's a passion you just said for you, but no matter what, it's still a second job. You
Yeah.
put all this time and energy
Yeah.
into it. People don't realize I can sit up until 2 a.m. doing stuff and still don't feel like I've touched it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
And you're just planning all year for one weekend.
well, and
one
we
day.
stupidly bid it off, and now we run a second show. So we started a board gaming event, which is in 2 weeks. So my desk is piled full of everything just for that, and it's hitting 1,000 in its second year. And luckily, that's because SFGE's board gaming event, continued to grow, and so people wanted more board gaming, and I said, okay, but it's got to be polar opposite time of the year for it to work, right? Because that's a lot.
Sumner?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you-
Scott and Shannon had said it pretty well. I mean, I would say I was been the more hesitant one because I started from like $0 and trying to work my way up. So always been the one that's like, I don't know if we should do that. And there's a lot of times where I benefit from it, and there's a lot of times I don't. And that thought process keeps going on and on and on, and until the show actually happens. You'll have doubts like before the show, like I don't know if anyone's going to show up. I had the first 2 years. I mean, I'm sure, especially actually everyone. Yeah, I mean that was the first fear I thought. I was like, well, what if no one shows up? I'm out. Like, well, obviously the lower cost at the time, I'm out 2,000, but still money I'm out of, just because I took a risk. And that's just something really big to deal with sometimes. And I think they said it well, very well. Yeah.
I'll say this. The gaming convention. Gosh, that's a cat. Get up here, goofball. I was going to say, since wrestling seems to be permeating the gaming conventions of late, you have that feeling of, is anybody going to show up pretty much every month if you're a wrestling promoter. And yeah, so having that feeling once a year versus 8 to 12 times a year or more, that is a feeling that kind of turns your gut, because if you don't make your money back, you got to pay out of the pocket all the people that are coming, that are working. So
yeah, Scott mentioned the voice actors. That's a big risk. They want a guarantee or X amount or flat, and will that equate to sales? You just don't know, right? And then you've got to promote that they're coming. So am I doing Facebook ads? Am I doing Google ads? How am I getting out there? So there's even wrestling. We've had wrestling. We were probably one of the first gaming conventions to ever have wrestling. We brought them in 2016 and run it every year since, and it's huge. Longest line at the show is to get into the wrestling. But once again, I'm paying them to come. Does it bring benefit? So there's always these risks. Sumner said it. You're even at a show our size. Do we put money into something that we're not sure it makes the money back out of? Because any dip anywhere could hurt your flow, and it impacts the next year. So it's hard. It doesn't matter what size it is. You still have those same questions in your head.
Well, and some of these celebrities that have their own merch tables or run their own vendor table at the conventions, a good chunk of them anyway.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Shannon. So like that, so that process never really goes away. It just like it's just something different. Is the big change. It's
Yeah,
always,
it gets bigger and it grows and it changes, but it's little things like some of our voice actors. They wanted, a permanent volunteer, the same person to sit with them all weekend, and I'm like, I can't get a handler that's going to be with you all 3 days. It's going to have to rotate, right?
Yeah.
And so it's the little things, like that it's always you're in the weeds with everything. You learn and you grow and you figure out what works and how to go back and debate and talk to folks. But it doesn't. One thing gets easier and new things come along. So, as you're on it, the best thing for us as organizers, I think, is to find other organizers and put those same things on the table and say, here's what's worked for us. Here's the people I've talked to. Here's the companies that I work with. Because I think us knowing more about each other helps us grow. We're adamantly fans of all the other shows that are out there. The only thing I would hate is if there's another show in the same town on the same weekend. That's
Right.
always a struggle.
Yeah.
And in Atlanta,
Yeah.
that happens. We've had a big comic book convention at the same time we are, and we're both big. And so those things happen for us. But, learning from each other and figuring out what works and what doesn't. And I do this with a lot of show organizers, is the best thing that I've ever done to see how things change and grow. So
Well, we will
And
definitely
there's
be
crossover
swapping
there
numbers.
too. Oh, go ahead.
I said we will
I just-
definitely be swapping email addresses or phone numbers before this is done, because I
Sounds
would
good.
love
Yeah.
to be in touch with you
Yeah.
guys.
Well, we kind of touched on it. What obstacles and hardships have you encountered in putting on these conventions? And we'll start with the new kid on the block, Sumner.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly, I would say it's mostly, I mean, if it comes from the more main community, it's definitely, for us, it's, oh, we need to expand the show like right away. And that's been our biggest hardship, is looking at other shows like, I don't think we should do that because this show did that and it didn't go well. And that's why you got to talk to other organizers too, because they'll straight up tell you that's a bad idea. Like you should not do that. And the other hardship would be, I mean, obviously just costs. I mean, because like most shows are run by vendors. They're the backbone of the shows. And maybe for my first year, it was just getting vendors in the first place. It's like I need them so I can run the show. And yeah, I mean, so that's like the biggest hardships for sure. I'm sure that goes for everyone too. I mean, of course you're gonna have different ways to support your show. Otherwise, like if you get big enough, but at the end of the day, they are the backbone. They are the backbone of the show.
Sponsorships help.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you have a big sponsor too, I mean that'll also help as well. But I'm thinking other hardships or anything like that. I mean, guests, definitely getting them out, and making, just promoting. Oh yeah, promoting. Yeah, that's a big one. That's
That
always
takes
a
up
struggle
much to
finding
your time.
Yeah, most of your time is just figuring out, oh, when should I put my Facebook ads to this, or when should I go out to this event, or just stuff like that. There's no right answers, to be honest. Like every area has a different way of marketing your show. Yeah, I can say that goes for everyone as well. Yeah.
Scott?
And
Oh, you're not done yet.
no, I'm all good here.
Okay, go ahead, Scott.
I think for me, the biggest struggle I had putting together a convention is determining prices, whether that be how much you're going to charge vendors for space, how much you're going to charge tickets. We learned a lot, especially last year, because we charged entirely too much, and I think that affected why people did not come to the show as much as we would like. So it's finding that sweet spot, because as we've talked about already, it's a leap of faith. You don't know if people are going to show up. The only money you really have for certain is the vendor space and any sponsors that you get. So, but you need bodies in the door paying for tickets in order to cover those expenses. So that is, I'm still struggling with that. Because it depends on the city. I'm sure, Shannon, you being in Atlanta, it probably makes more sense for you to charge a higher price. It did not make sense for us to charge a high price for our tickets. We had some hardcore people there, but lowering our price would have definitely attracted a lot more people. And there's no way to know the math at the end. So yeah, the pricing is the hardest part for me.
Well, here's the other. Did the Pinball Expo play any factor in hurting attendance because they threw all their money buying the tickets to, and I don't know how much you charged, but
it was like $25.
Okay.
But you got to remember, people in Rockford don't leave Rockford. They don't go to Chicago. I know everyone's
really,
yeah,
that's I'm kind of surprised on that one because when there's this big events happening in the Chicago area. I mean, I guess maybe this is why they don't travel over to Chicago because they don't want to pay the tolls on the I-90.
Well, that and the drive and Rockford is a much different animal than Chicago in terms of, Chicago feels like a modern city. Rockford feels like it's slowly getting there. And I'm not knocking my town. I love my town. But the majority of people that came to our convention were not going to the pinball convention the following weekend. So I don't really feel like that was an issue. Now, if it were Midwest Gaming Classic, the following week, I would not be doing it that week. They're in April, so I don't have to worry about that so much. But I don't really consider the Pinball Expo a competition, even though we actually ran into a bunch of the vendors that were at our show at the Pinball Expo, which is always so cool. I love going to conventions. We go, my buddy Jake and I go to and Chris, we go to conventions to recruit more vendors. And we keep running into the guys that have been to our show since 2019, and it's so much fun to get to know those guys.
Although I kind of thought that the vendors who went to the Pinball Expo would come to your event, and then they'd have a week-long vend experience starting from.
Well, it worked out for some of the vendors, yeah, because they were just right in the area, because they're not all from here; they're from all over the place, so they've got to travel. And it worked out well for them to have two right close to each other.
Yeah. Shannon?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Scott on the ticketing and the pricing stuff. Early on we heard people say, well, I can pay that much and play for X hours at David Buster's. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not what the show is. We're not David Buster's, and we have a lot of different things and more than that, So we're definitely in a different price world. Atlanta's expensive. It's a major city. If you take the whole center of Georgia, that's kind of what we call Atlanta these days. I mean, it's Atlanta's massive. But our ticket, I think this year's prices at the door is $88. You can get it a lot cheaper buying it early. We do a tiered pricing structure, and we market with discounts. But people will wait to the door to buy their tickets. For us, I think one of the things that really early on we had to figure out was as we grew quickly, and for us, we're an everything gaming. So board gaming, Warhammer, RPGs, console gaming. We own over 100 consoles that come to the show. Plus we bring in a vendor that brings in modern consoles. So with so many different areas, it's how do you staff a show like that? How do you find a volunteer group that wants to volunteer every year and finds love in it? And what we did was, as we started to grow, we created what we call crew chiefs. I think we have 14 of them now that are in charge of various aspects of the show. And so they have people under them, and without those key folks, I don't think we'd have a show, because the three of us, stay really busy during the event. But without those key folks that have a very focused area, whether that's consoles or registration or whatever, we couldn't do it. And finding how to get those people back year after year and see the love of the event in their eyes was important for us. So,
and
definitely not easy. Yeah.
And your obstacles and hardships that you encountered over the years, getting the Southern Fried going.
I mean, I think our biggest obstacle was COVID. I mean, it really scared us. I watched, what was the big, and I'm having trouble remembering it. The group that run the pinball tournaments started a show. The big Papa Professional Amateur Pinball Association. They started their own show.
I'm not aware of it. I don't know.
It was big. It was probably the biggest show out there, and COVID shut them down. That show's no more. It was scary for us. We were really worried about how that would affect us. Would people come back the first year? Are they willing to wear a mask? Are they, all those things made us really scared. And even our first year back, we hit a patch of an outbreak, and it was kind of scary. but that show allowed us to function, and we've continued to grow since. So, that's one thing that's out of your. I know another show that's a gaming event, more board gaming, that recently, about a month before their event, had the hotel say, "Sorry, we're closing. We're canceling all your rooms."
Oh my God.
Well,
Oh my.
I will say that COVID, when they started shutting everything down in mid-March of 2020, the following month was Midwest Gaming Classic, and they were pretty concerned because they needed the government to shut everything down so they would not be on the hook for a lot of things. And that order did come down, and so that enabled them to this cat bring it back towards the back. Gosh, I think it was in November. They did Midwest Gaming Classic in November of 2020, and then did it in April in 2021. So they were 6 months apart. Give credit to Dan Lucen. He made both conventions very different in content. So there was nothing was stale. Everything was fresh.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're at the whim of anything that could happen. Seeing this hotel shut down was really scary. You take in money that you put into the event, and now they're probably going to do. I mean, they're trying to find a new weekend, but you're going to want refunds, and it's just going to happen. So those kind of things are scary when you have a top budget to try to make something happen, and it impacts what you're trying to create. So you want the best for the people that attend, and if you have those kind of things happen that are out of your control, whether it's a hotel shutdown or COVID, it makes for a scary situation because you want everyone to come to your show and enjoy it. You want them to walk away feeling like they relive their childhood.
I will say Midwest Gaming Classic, after COVID, created the forever tickets. So if you can't if for some reason you have to cancel your trip at the last minute, you can use your tickets for another year.
Yeah, I saw he did that. That's really cool.
Although I don't miss, come hell or high water, I'm going to go to Midwest Gaming Classic. I end up having to buy my tickets in the hotel room 4 months in advance because that sucker sells out so quick. And I don't want to wait in line all the way around the Bard Center. That was crazy.
That is a long line to wait in. I can attest to that.
Yes.
It's so and sorry about that.
Go ahead.
It's so interesting seeing Shannon's point of view because I felt like I was more taking advantage in 2021 and 2022 of people just want to go out of their houses. So yeah, I mean, more of the risk there was just, do we know people are ready to go out yet? Like that was the simple one. It's so, like, did you have restrictions on your tables, like how close they were? Was that the extent of that?
There was so many precautions that were put in place. Our volunteers were Lysol wiping down control panels. We did space our vendor tables some. We did space our tabletop tables for sure some. And of course, hand sanitizer can ruin cardboard components of board games, and there was so many things that. But every table had hand sanitizer on it, so you're trying to make this work and feel normal to people. And it's really hard to feel normal when every other person's got a mask on and are honestly, in our industry, it's a hard time to have went through because people are scared. And you're right, Sumner, you don't know if they're ready to get back out there. But most people were. There were so many people ready to be out of the house and just enjoy life again that I think right after things settled, you saw a surge in every convention. Every convention I went to had big numbers, and they started to recover, and that was exciting to see. I just feel bad for the shows that didn't make it out of it.
Yeah.
Call me the doggone rebel that should have gotten sick 100 times over and ended up face down in an ICU on an oxygen tank because I resisted about everything during the pandemic because I took my vitamins, and I did not like working from home, and I went to work every day because I was like, I don't want to be cooped up in the house. I have to have routine. I have to have structure, and I was not going to settle for a new normal. I wanted the true normal. I was going to do everything to get it, such as gaming. And gaming filled the void because wrestling was gone for a while because couldn't have a crowd. Well, in a lot of places, unless you wanted to defy the local health department, which some did. Anybody want to comment?
I had know nothing about wrestling, man. I have nothing to contribute there.
Well,
I'm completely ignorant.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, that's a whole different world. It seems like.
Well, I'm talking about crowds coming to anything, because the conventions had to shut down during the pandemic. Arcades shut down, obviously. Galloping Ghost managed to get back up and running in June, and I was up there pretty quick. I certainly grinded since I had a lot more free time. Start chasing scores, and then try to win Gamer of the Year, which I did. So anyway, so let's just go around the table. Sumner, your convention's coming up first. What do we have going? What do you have for this year's edition of Como?
Yeah, so the biggest additions you're going to see is, I know there was complaints last year about how tournaments worked, because we went with some more modern games. So we had some more like esports, very like legitimate competitors. They're ranked in the state and that kind of stuff. Which, if you're someone who's just playing there, it kind of deletes the fun of it. So this year we have Columbia College is running a Smash Bros tournament, and they'll be doing like an esports style where there'll be like a screen projector against the wall kind of thing, chair set up. And so there will be that side, but also we also have some different tournaments. We also got these people from Topeka called Potato Place Gaming. They're coming in with a bunch of consoles. They're a nonprofit who's run by donations, and we're gonna get a bunch of like a Tetris setups and do a bunch of Tetris tournaments this year. So yeah, so you'll have a multitude of stuff for sure when it comes to tournaments, and that won't be a problem. We'll have the same vendor hall as usual, even bigger, obviously, with our bigger venue. And yeah, panels. Well, we'll I'd probably give it another month. I can confirm panels, but we'll have panels for sure. And yeah, I mean that's the big details I know of for right now. We have a lot more backing this year, and a lot more momentum coming off our fourth year show, which I can't wait to see what happens with that. But yeah, that's pretty much all we got going on with Como. Just 2 hours away from Kansas City, 2 hours away from St. Louis, right in between. It's perfect.
Shannon?
That's awesome, Sumner.
Thank you.
So we're still a little ways away, and like I said, we've got our tabletop event coming up. But our show is very diversified. I've mentioned the wrestling. We do a pepper eating contest, which is always the funnest. Although I don't eat hot stuff, so I just watch people eat hot stuff. A pepper eating contest, which is always fun. We have an '80s prom where everybody dresses up and enjoys an incredible cover band. 400 arcade and pinball machines. We added VR last year, so a huge VR area. The Vintage Computer Festival. Of course, board gaming, all kinds of board gaming, including Warhammer and miniature painting, etc., stuff like that. This year, we're bringing back our film festival. Our film festival run for 3 or 4 years, and then when COVID hit, we changed our film festival into just a movie screening room and ran mostly gaming-related flicks. It was great. This year, I think we're bringing back a full festival, so we'll have submissions and winners, and that's exciting. Last year, we added PC esports, which was a big hit, so that'll return this year. We've only announced one guest. We've got a lot more in the works, but we like to spread them out. So this past week, we announced Howard Scott Warshaw, the game creator for ET. So if you ever was stuck in the hole, then you know exactly how much we all hated that game and loved it at the same time. I've met Howard before. He's a great guy. We're excited to have him at the event this year. So our guests usually are spread out between, voice actors, designers, pinball designers, a good mix. But Howard will be a fun. He has a book out, if you've not seen it, based on his time in creation and some of the backstory of ET and the desert, cover up and all that. So he should be fun.
I will say this about ET. It gets a bad rap because they a lot of times credit this particular game for causing the 1983 video game crash. I don't think that alone did it.
No.
They just produced way too many carts.
Yes, absolutely.
And plus, it's been well eclipsed by some of the stuff that came out last year, the AAA games that flopped tremendously. I know,
Concord.
Scott, you've covered this. Yes. Concord, that's just one of them. I have my guest for next week. I'll mention it in a second. I'm going to wonder if she's going to collect that particular title or some of the other AAAs that did not sell, or people just quit playing a short time after release. And it looks like we already have our first flop of the year on its way and then soon to come out, and somebody did not learn their lesson. So I got to double down on the same stuff that caused them massive losses. So, well, if you want to waste your money, go right ahead. I mean, anyway, it's a lot, Scott. It's a long way off till your next convention. But what do you think you're going to do for your fourth edition?
Well, the number one thing is tickets are going to be cheaper. I'm not in the Atlanta area, so Shannon, I can't get away with charging $88 a ticket. We are going to be doing
$88 is crazy. I don't think Midwest Gaming charges that much.
Yeah, more. We're still cheaper than most of the big shows like that out there. It's crazy. No, it's a 3-day event. 3-day event. That's for 3 days.
Okay, it's for 3 days, but I was thinking single day.
We do sell single day, but that's the price for 3 days. At the door.
Then it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Because divide by 3, I mean,
right. Yeah,
it's about the same. Okay, go ahead, Scott.
So we're going to be doing a lot of the same we did last year. Like I said, I know we're going to have music. We did music as an after party last year, but I think we're going to try to incorporate music during the event, not necessarily this type of music that we had headlining last time. We actually had some rock bands, pretty loud music. But I'm talking to, I actually met with a musician that I just discovered was local. He's it's like 11 or 13 guys that all do like jazz renditions of video game music. They're actually performing in Rockford in the day of Midwest Gaming Classic. They're going to be in Rockford doing a show. We're going to be helping them with that. We're going to be doing stuff in the lobby for them and volunteering. We're trying to get them to come and play music during the event. They're not available at night, but just to kind of have background music during the event would be super rad. We're going to have more arcade cabinets. We're going to, like I said, work on what we can do to get more things for people to do except for spend money. So that's going to be something to look forward to. And we're going to look to go back to getting voice talent again. I had a couple lined up and they did not fall through, or they fell through, excuse me. And I was super bummed because one was going to be a huge draw. So I'm still trying, but some of those guys are just expensive. You have to go through agencies. I was trying really hard to get these 2 voice actors, and they said, talk to my agency. I contacted the agency and they said something like a 10 grand minimum. And I was like, we don't make that much in our entire convention. There's no way we're going to afford that. So,
yeah, that's probably a good idea. It's not spend more than on one guest anyway.
But look forward to that. We're looking to have more people to meet and rub shoulders with next year than we did last year. So those are the things you can look forward to at R2V2 in 2025.
All right, quick round the room. What game are you grinding on currently? Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I was at a board gaming event just a couple of weeks ago and saw that there was a board game based on Slay the Spire, which is and so I came home and said, I've never played this game, and so
You're in
so now I'm so it takes up a little too much time. I've got to quit, but I've enjoyed a run on that. It's pretty fun. So,
are you an iPhone guy or an Android guy?
I'm an Android guy.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know I don't know if it's on Android, but it is on Apple Arcade, and I had like a subscription or like a free month of Apple Arcade, and I put it on my phone, and I thank God that canceled that month.
Yeah, I don't need another way to play it, is what I'm saying. But yeah, it's been fun. But yeah, that's my current obsession. So when I have time.
Yeah, I would say right now, a lot of my time is delve into I'm at flight school right now, so a lot of my time is delve into that. But on my off time, because football season's right now, I'm playing NCAA football 25. I've been playing the crap out of that, and I think I'm on like 2020, like season 2033 or something like that right now. And I haven't been able to get into other stuff, but that's one I'm on right now. I swear.
I'll say sports games are my Achilles heel. I'm not good at them, and although I can play NFL Blitz and NBA Jam, but Madden
those are
and
good
games like that, that's a lot of.
It's a lot of technical, yeah.
That is the game. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that what amazes me about that game is I will, if I'm trying to catch a game and I don't watch a lot, and I try to find it on YouTube, I will often find people showing that game, and it literally takes me a minute to realize it's not the real game. It's them running a simulation of the same two teams that are really playing. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on yesterday. People were illegally streaming the one of the bowl games, and then it kept like being shut down, and then they started back up again. But they're like running a simulation or streaming somebody else's channel running a simulation, and then switch back over to the illegal sharing of the ESPN channel. So,
yeah,
I'm just impressed that how accurate they've got every school on there. Like I'm not at my college wasn't a huge school, although it was at a bowl game this year. But boy, even my college, the stadium looks verbatim. It's impressive. So,
which university?
Jacksonville State University out of Alabama. They just had their coach go up to West Virginia.
Yeah. I think they were included because they just recently moved up to
we
FBS.
Did
last year. That was cool.
Yeah,
that was cool how they did that. But the arcade stuff too is so fun, like the NBA jams and that kind of stuff.
NFL Blitz. I'm getting carpal tunnel just thinking about it.
Oh my God, that game is. If I ever see it in an arcade and I'm hanging out with a friend, we are playing 4 quarters of NFL Blitz. I wish they would bring that back. Like, it was on Xbox 360, and I don't have it on my 360 anymore, and you obviously can't re-download it. What I would give to have that. Oh, it's such a great game.
Now that's also a great guest. What's his name? The voice from Blitz.
Tim Kitzrow. That's actually.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Tim.
Tim Kitzrow. Yes.
Tim is wonderful. He's been at our show, and they had to kind of yell at him because he had a megaphone out in the hallway doing a little over the top. But he is a great guest and a wonderful person. So we enjoyed having him at the event.
He's an awesome guy.
Well, maybe I'll get him on the podcast at some point. But
he's a lot of fun.
Yes.
Scott, what game are you grinding?
Well, I just finished. Okay, so we've just wrapped up 2024, and I tried to review as many games as I can on my website and on the podcast. And I really wanted to finish one more game, so I picked up Silent Hill 2, which is on PS5. I thought I had played the original, and it turns out I hadn't because I don't remember any of the story. I'm telling you guys, this game is outstanding. I feel like it reviewed very well, but nobody is talking about it. It is the most atmospheric, creepy game I have played in a long time. I jumped out of my skin multiple times. The story is incredibly dark. It is just a thrill ride, but in the most dour way possible. It doesn't sound like a positive thing, but this game goes some places and makes you think. It is outstanding.
So have you seen the passion of people speed running that game?
No, but like why
We had
would
a
you want to
speedrunner.
speedrun that game?
We had a speedrunner at our show do it at our show live, and I was like, okay, but people are fascinated with it. You know, I
Like
mean, there's a lot of games out there they like to speed run, but that
like the
one was
new
one.
one or the original?
I think it's a great question. It's probably the original Silent Hill 2. But still, I mean, even then, I was like, that's a speedrun game? And yeah, apparently it is. So
It's nuts.
Wow.
Can you play it like Resident Evil? I don't think you can, right? It's just complete kind of different game mechanics.
What do you mean?
I've never played Silent Hill. I played Resident Evil.
Well, I mean, the original was very similar in terms of mechanics, right? But
Yeah.
they kind of evolved. They evolved a little bit earlier than Resident Evil did. Like Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 were still very much the same control scheme. But Silent Hill kind of matriculated to something a little bit different quicker. Like, and then this new one, holy cow, it is so gorgeous to look at. It is just a stunningly beautiful game that is just not getting enough credit.
Apparently they're speed running it too. 1 hour and 51 minutes. I just sent you the link.
Oh,
crazy.
I just pulled it up.
Yeah.
1 hour,
man.
please.
Yeah, crazy.
Speedrun.com, which is the site that tracks how fast you could complete a game, glitches, and anything goes to get to the end credits, I guess.
Yep.
Twin Galaxies, not so much. Galloping Ghost won't allow that either, or will allow players to get the high score with illegal shortcuts, but I don't know. Let's see, is that, I believe I'm going to wrap this up unless there's anything else you wanted to mention before we get out here. You know, I didn't even. You got a podcast too, Scott. The Gaming Outsider. When's your next broadcast?
Well, we actually record on Tuesday. It is my favorite episode of the year. And it's our Game of the Year episode. And I'm actually having my entire crew on the show in terms of podcasts. I got about 10 on my team, but there's 6 of us or 5 of us that are actually like core podcast hosts that we kind of rotate. But all 5 of us are going to be on the episode at the same time, along with the special guest. He comes by every year for our Game of the Year episode. Grant Henry from Stemage, Metroid Metal. He kind of comes and moderates the show for us. And we do our Game of the Year a kind of interesting way. We all send Grant our top 10 games of the year, and then he calculates them all on a spreadsheet. For such nerds. This is so hilarious. Like your number 10 pick gets 1 point, your number 9 pick gets 2 points, and so on. So your number 1 point pick is going to get 10 points. And he calculates that all up, and we come up with our overall game of the year based on whichever one gets the most points. And it's all like a big reveal. And then we do our like our predictions for the year, and we catch up on our predictions from last year. It is just an all-out fun episode, and it will release a week from today. Actually, will be our Game of the Year episode. But then we do one every week that releases on Thursday. We do industry news. We talk about the games we've been playing, and we do a community topic where we involve people from our social media outlets, and we ask them a video game related question, and we discuss it on the show. I would love it if you guys checked it out. It's free. It's on Spotify. It's on wherever you listen to podcasts, and does not cost you a dime. And our website is thegamingoutsider.com. You can review all of our written content there as well.
And it does, and you can listen to it on YouTube.
Yes. And actually, the show we're doing on Tuesday, we're recording it on Tuesday, and we're doing it live on YouTube. It's the first time we've ever done that. My producer is doing some learning, and we're going to try to do it live. So if you want to watch us, you can follow us there. YouTube.com/The Gaming Outsider.
So you did your Game of the Year picks. Did you have any agree or disagree with the? I guess there was a big gaming awards show that happened the last couple of weeks. Was there? Did you agree with the picks they made, or is there anything that kind of you did not agree with?
Well, I will tell you that the Game of the Year that won was Astrobot. And I can't reveal where on my list it is because it's supposed to be a secret until we record the episode. But I will say that Astrobot did make my top 10 for certain. And it is the only game I reviewed this year that I gave a perfect 10 out of 10, if that means anything. That game is outstanding. If you've never played it, you owe it to yourself to do it. It is just fantastic. It has nostalgia all over it. It's really good.
I will say that I pretty much gravitate towards the classics. I'm not into the modern consoles. I don't have a PS5. I don't have a PS4. I do have a Xbox 360 in a box that somebody gave to me, but I've never played it. That's because I'm kind of into the arcade stuff right now, and I haven't been going back to the consoles for quite some time. But then again, time constraints. So it's like I'm practicing for my next trip up to Galloping Ghost Arcade, if I have any time at all. And now I'm doing the show every week. So I'm eating up my time just where I could be playing, but, it's all in good fun.
And Shannon and Sumner, I would love to have you guys on the show sometime and talk about conventions as well. It'd be maybe when we get closer to R2V2, we can pick your brain a little bit and get some ideas from you guys.
Sounds great.
Or just talk about games in general.
All right. Anything else you want to plug before we get out of here?
I do another podcast. I'm not into college football like Sumner is, but I'm a huge Green Bay Packers fan. And I do a show called the Packers Fan Podcast. We've been doing that he's been doing it for over 11 years. I joined about 5 years ago. So it is a lot of fun. We actually, a couple years ago, we had Kenny Clark as a guest on the show. That was awesome to be able to talk to an actual Green Bay Packers. So yeah, Packers Fan Podcast.
Sumner, Shannon? Anything you want to plug before you get out of here?
Nope.
No, I just want to say thanks to Scott and Sumner. I think that it's always great, like I said before, to connect with other show organizers and hearing, the same stuff we went through and being able to share. I love it. We're not a competition. We've never been. I don't think any show around us are. We want to see everyone succeed and for people to have fun. So this is great.
You make such a great.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
You make such a great point. Most people that are in the same business are fighting for each other, are in competition. We're not. As long as we're not doing it on the same weekend, if nothing else, we are lifting each other up. What other businesses can say that?
Yeah, not many.
It's great.
And I haven't got my fill. I can't wait for Midwest Gaming Classic. And once I get out of that particular weekend, am I going to, how much more do I want? And then will I make my way to Como again this year? I don't know. We'll see.
You got to do it.
But somebody who has attended the Southern Fried Gaming Expo is my guest next week. It's this lady, Brandy Gamer Aimer.
Yes, she was with us 2 years ago. Yeah.
So she's on my podcast, and apparently kind of a female version of me, because the most shocking thing I learned about her is she's law enforcement. Now, I was code, but I work for Illinois State Police, but she's law enforcement. But now I'm going to have to pick her brain because I need to organize this room back here, because it's like I got too much clutter, and her room is so filled with gaming stuff. It's like, how can you even walk through the room? I don't know how she does it. And then how many copies of Concord is she going to collect? Since they got to be cheap right now.
No, they're not. I was actually mad at myself because they were on sale at Walmart for $10 right when the announcement went, and I was like, I got to get me a sealed copy, and now they're just skyrocketed. So,
well, they recalled them, I believe.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you go to like eBay or something like that, you can't buy them at a store. It is all like trying to collect them on eBay or whatever, and they're just ridiculous because everybody's thinking like we are, like, oh, would love to have a piece of history like that.
I would have thought they would have ended up in a landfill too, and then 30 years from now, you'd be digging them out of the ground like you did with the Atari cartridges.
Well, that's the problem is everybody remembers that story and they collect it. Back in when that happened, nobody thought that video games would be collectible items.
No,
so that's why they wound up in a landfill.
No.
Well, they did in the middle of the night, and then people started walking into the landfill and then grabbing the stuff off the ground, and it's like, oh, we got to bury that. We can't have them doing that. And then it became legendary that, well, did this really happen? And then they finally had to dig, and then they proved that, yes, it did happen.
Did you guys see that documentary?
Some of it.
Atari Game Over.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fascinating experience. Even Ernest Cline was there, it was just such a cultural event for us nerds. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
And Shannon, you're going to have Howard Warshaw at the convention, and he's probably going to have something to say about it.
Oh yeah, he does. He's a one-man show. He needs no moderator. He comes ready to talk. So.
And yes, Atari was my first console too. So anyway,
well, thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We'll have to have. Maybe we'll do it again. We'll probably have you on. Scott, I was starting to fear like maybe I should have had you as a solo guest because of all the other stuff you were doing.
Hey, anytime, man.
But anyway, Sumner, maybe I'll be there. I don't know. We'll see. It's probably going to be a decision after. Midwest Gaming, because that's how it was last year.
Yeah, usually is for a lot of people. Yeah.
And maybe I'll turn an arcade or something over there too. Oh, Scott, you have Tilted 10. That was the big arcade in Rockford that I know of because I passed by it driving up to Milwaukee.
Yeah, we actually did an Extra Life event at Tilted 10. They let us use one of their, they got like the little party rooms, like where they have kids' birthday parties and stuff. And they let us bring couches and big screen TVs and consoles and all this kind of stuff. And we did a 24-hour stream in there. That was a lot of fun. I was very tired the next day, but yeah, it was a lot of fun.
They had classic arcade games in there. And then the next year that I stopped in to walk through it, they were all gone. They pulled all the classic stuff out.
Well, nobody was playing them, and they got to do stuff that earns them money, like ticket games, which it's the bane of any gamer's existence is ticket games.
Kiddie gambling is what I call it.
Yeah.
And then we got all the daggum adult gambling parlors all over my city. And pretty much every city in the state of Illinois now.
Doesn't that drive you crazy when you walk into a place and it says video gaming here, and you kind of get excited for a second, and then you're like, oh no, that's just gambling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it drives me nuts. It's not video games. It has to involve a joystick. Anyway, Scott, Shannon, and Sumner, thank you for coming into the Crimeycade for tonight, and maybe I'll see you around the arcade soon, maybe the Galvin Ghost, or maybe one of the conventions. Well, I know you're coming to Midwest. Some of you are coming to Midwest Gaming, so maybe I'll see you.
I will be there on Saturday or Saturday during the day, but again, I'm helping run that show here in Rockford, so I'm going to have to jet a little bit earlier. But you guys got my contact information. Hit me up. I'd love to meet up with you in person.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys, have a good night and Happy New Year. I guess it's January the 2nd. Happy New Year, I guess.
Yep, 2025.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, see y'all.
All right. Well, let me run through this because I had a few items in the back end I was going to mention before we get out of here, since I wanted to get into the guests straight away. Well, scoring this week, and Galvin Ghost has new high scores that have been set. Get set every week, and I want to run them down a little bit. Yes, Horror Story new house high. Aaron A Train got a new house high on Horror Story, raised eclipsing 575. Andrew Wasco toppled Andrew Dunos. I had the house high on that for a little bit, but he surpassed Jamie Tippett's score, who had that mark at Pixel Blast. Gosh, I have a typo over here. UN Squadron, that should say Pete Hahn came back to the Gambling Ghost Arcade and set a new world record. 1.6 million points. And then Jim Patzer has returned to the Gambling Ghost Arcade, setting new house highs on Looping and Tinkle Pit. Tinkle Pit, the Namco maze game. 2.8 million on Tinkle Pit. Chris Plackey also set a new world record on the original Mortal Kombat. 24.3 million points, and that is starting the game cold, no continuing the game from another player's side, so you could have a stronger material to test your might. In fact, the rule is in place. If anything stronger than steel is in the bonus stage, it is not gonna, that score is gonna be DQ'd. And the game of the week at the Monday Mystery Game, Gavin Ghost, Dynagear, Andrew Wasco took the house high and surpassed the high that was set by Justin Zurst. But that's not all. There's a couple of new world records set that were submitted between galaxies, and these people had these games not in an arcade, but at their houses. Crazy Kong, which is the Falcon licensed version of Donkey Kong. It's like, I don't know why they changed the graphics for that licensed version, but world record was set on that. I mean, they have the 4 screens in order for all 22 levels, and actually you can pass 3 of the kill screens in Crazy Kong before you meet your end at the Rivet stage. But 765,000 points by Estelle Guffanet. That's a Twins Galaxy submission. And then R-Type 2. This is the world version of the ROMs. This is the easier version of the game. Erster von Elf, 821,000 points on R-Type 2. That's the easier version of R-Type. And the chase for tokens, well, not much of a change. Andrew Wasco is now pulling away from Jimbo Slice James White. He will be Professor Token Taker probably forever from now on. Anyway, and Andrew is also one score away from getting that magic 200 high scores at the Gambling Ghost Arcade. He's been floating under 200 for quite some time. He's never been able to reach it. But now, I'm going to check real quick to see if he actually did get that get score number 200. And does not look like that has happened as of yet. No, that has not happened. So he's still needs one more score to get that magic 200, and we'll see if he can get it next Monday. And Arcade Wars is in the books, the last one of the year for 2024, and the Garcade pretty much dominated the Arcade Wars for the year, taking the first place of all the arcades. Underground Retrocade, a close second place. One Up Arcade takes third for the year, and Galloping Ghost, Doc Mack is fretting about being the top arcade and having the top players, but once again, missing out on 2 games during the course of the year really hurt, I think. But congratulations to the Garcade and having the top players, Patzer, Brooke Anderson, Jason D, really putting in the scores for and representing the Garcade and dominating the Arcade Wars for 2024. And January the 12th, 2025, Mortal Kombat the Mortal Kombat tournament will be taking place at 3 p.m. Central Time. Entry fees will be $15 to enter. The top 3 contenders will earn a cash money prize. And there's been rumors that Spirit, the reigning champion of Blade Wars, may sit it out and vacate the belt because he's afraid, because he's a Street Fighter player, not a Mortal Kombat player. So he doesn't want to show up for this tournament and defend his belt. He'd rather just vacate it. Boy, that's not showing spirit. That's showing cowardice in my view. And yes, somebody will ask, well, why aren't you showing up? I just might. However, doggone it, those one-day trips are brutal. And Blade Wars Tournament has released their schedule for the course of the year. February 8th is going to be the NFL Blitz again. They have scheduled Waka Waka 7 for April. They have not named the game for March, but they're going to do one at the Headless Horseman. They're going to do one in May at the Underground Retrocade. Per suggestions from me, and kind of putting that idea in JP Pitts' head. So we're going to see. And then the Power Stone is going to happen in August 17th. And as mentioned earlier, Midwest Gaming Classic, I will be back at that convention, and always going to be a fun time. And we did cover the Como. That follows just 2 weeks later. By the way, C2E2 is going to follow this. I'm not sure. I believe it's... I think it's in between both. Oh, my goodness. C2E2 is going to be right in the middle of... right between Midwest Gaming Classic and Como. That's going to be a dilemma, especially if there's... If they have Goblin Ghost does another C2E2 title match, I want to win that last belt, and I could not beat Jimbo Slice for that belt. Certainly, I did that best of 7 challenge against Jimbo Slice and won. So I'm proud of that. I don't know if I'll ever touch down Atlanta, Georgia, but that's when Southern Fried Gaming Expo will be. And as mentioned earlier, Brandy the Gamer Aimer, the Super Game Collector, will be on the Crimeycade podcast next Thursday, January the 9th, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And that'll do it for the Crimeycade podcast for this week. I hope to see you around the arcade soon, and have a good night, everybody.